about the sound of sirens. That's right, the sound of sirens. If you've never heard one live, if you've never been on the receiving end of incoming rocket fire or drone attacks or mortar fire or ballistic missile fire, then you might have a very different experience than a lot of people in the world who unfortunately have been on the receiving end of that kind of ordinance intended to harm or kill as many people as possible where you are located. And when it's completely indiscriminate fire and you have absolutely no idea what the targets are, and you know there's an even higher probability of it harming non-combatants, civilians and other people who have nothing to do with any fighting, and you realize the only reason that this stuff is being hurled at you is because there are people in the world who just don't believe you have the right to exist, and you realize this is a kind of hatred that has been going on for thousands of years, long before the current insanity, long before the previous ones, long before the ones before those, and the ones before those, right? Thousands of years this has been happening. Well, when you realize all that, and you happen to live in a place with that kind of incoming ordinance on your head, the sound of sirens can actually be at the same time worrying, at the same time good to have. What do I mean by that? Well, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And better to have it when you need it than not. In other words, those sirens, at least in Israel, protect lives because they're localized to the locations where the army has determined is the probable area that the ordinance is targeting, and also the path that it's taking where the ordinance might be intercepted. So to look out for falling debris, which can be just as deadly as the actual ordinance itself. When you have giant pieces of metal falling out of the sky at the speed of gravity, sometimes they're still very hot. Sometimes the engines they're running, if they're like ballistic missiles, can still be burning hot, can still be burning fuel, and can still be very explosive. But the idea is that by intercepting them before they get to their target, if you do it in an open area, over a field, over the sea, or whatever, then there's a higher probability of no one getting hurt. And so those sirens, while they're distressing, certainly for some people, I would say almost anyone really, but for some people are more distressed by them than others. It doesn't matter. Those sirens are the sirens that make the sounds that protect us. They're intended to protect us. The sirens literally tell us, go to a sheltered area that can resist bomb blasts, which is insane to think about, that we live in a place where, that people live in a place where there's rocket attacks on a regular basis. Like when they say what other country would accept this, it's almost an offensive question because literally no other country accepts this, right? Ukraine has been getting attacked by rockets almost endlessly by Russia for the past 2.5, 3 years. And what have they done? They fought back like hell, right? And they've also taken over land in Russia, tiny, tiny slivers of land, but still, relative to the size of Russia, tiny slivers of land. But still, they've taken over land in response, and they intend to keep it and use it as a bargaining chip if they can manage to hold on to it until some kind of the end of a war. But the Russians don't actually have a declared genocidal view of Ukraine. Yes, they did terrible things. Yes, they committed war crimes. Yes, they did all kinds of awful things to the Ukrainian people at the outset of the war and throughout. But they don't have some charter that says we will kill every single Ukrainian person. And they don't necessarily want to destroy the state of Ukraine. They'd like it to become part of the Russian Empire again. But in Israel, it's literally a fight for the existence not only of the state of Israel, but of every person that lives in Israel, whether they're man, woman, or child, whether they're Jewish or Arab or Christian or Muslim or atheist or Zoroastrian or Buddhist or whatever. Anyone in the state of Israel is a target to the bad guys. And that's why they don't care where they shoot the rockets and missiles and drones. Right? That's why they make no apology about the atrocities they committed on October 7th, October 8th, or any of the days before or since. So, the sound of sirens, as unpleasant as they are actually good for us in that they protect us. Cheers.